busy time the last 6 or 7 months since the state ended their receivership of the district, and we have a lot of updates and information we'd like to share with you tonight. We are presently going to be working on the second 6-month budget. If you recall, the first 6 months we wanted to get our arms around, try to get an idea of what we were going to need to spend. We inherited the numbers from the state, so we wanted to get a better feel for things going on. We've got a lot of things done. The department's running well. We've got a brand new rescue now, and after looking at the rescue we took out of service, as the chief said, we wouldn't use that for an animal rescue truck, and it's really a great accomplishment that finally we got rid of that, and we've got our other truck ready to go on board this week, Chief, or next week? A couple weeks, okay. We'll have the other truck on board within the next couple weeks, and so we're making a big change there. That was a very, I don't want to make that sound like it was the only thing, but just the fact that those rescues were in such sad shape, how many times they broke down, how many people's safety was that was in play. We're glad to have at least accomplished that. All the payroll's been made, all the bills have been paid. We hired a new district manager to start putting procedures in place for the district. That's all positive steps forward to have things in place so that we'll be able to get back into a professional operation. So there's a lot going on. Start with the roll call.
Dan Lance here. Richard Boselli here.
Maureen Jensen here. Helen Quinn here.
Maureen Baker here.
Cynthia Fagan, Perry here.
Fred Berlinski here. We have all the board members are present. Gail Corrigan is our district manager. Dave D'Agostino, our attorney. Peter Lamb, Chief Lamb. And Jessica Pennerin is our new clerk. Huh? Oh, the safety, yeah. Can't forget that. Safety instructions. You'll notice the safety exits over the doors where the exits are to head out and back through the hall. Best way probably out the back door and to the left with the number of people here. So that would be the best side out if there's any emergency calls.
Excuse me, Mr. President, can you turn the volume up? This young lady can't hear you.
Let me see. Not sure how. Does anybody know? Dan? Take a look at it. Maybe if I'll tell you, how about if I just hold it closer? I'll tell you, Dan, I'm just going to talk closer to it.
That's good.
Okay. I always get worried that I'm yelling at people. I don't mean to do that, so I already talked loud anyway. Tonight we're going to be reviewing the budget. We'll show you what the first half budget was. We used the state figures and what we actually spent, what's left. There's also an attachment in there showing you the cash position, and also the debt statement is included. So there's quite a bit in your package to look over. So what we're going to be presenting tonight is the second 6-month budget. This will get us through until our September meeting, and we're going to continue with the same tax rate we had for the first half of the year, which was $1.23 based on 6 months, or $2.46 for the year, which was 30 cents less than what the budget was last year, which was $2.76. And for any of you who were paying attention to what the state's plan was, they were planning on increasing the taxes last year by 2% and increasing them again this year by 2%, and they were going to be fixing the problem by just continually increasing taxes and not actually dealing with the issues. We were able to have Dave Jervis do an assessment of our district, which showed that our district had more value than we had originally been using. That was something that for 3 years when the state and the courts were running the district, no one ever did an assessment review. We did one in a very short time. We were able to get Dave, thanks to Dave Jervis helping us, we were able to get one done, and that effectively helped us reduce the tax rate, take some of the burden off the people in town, and kind of help going forward to show some efficiency of our monies. The budget review, as you have the forms attached, are there any questions or anything people would like to ask concerning the budget? Okay, with that, the budget proposal for this year is actually the other half of the budget that we already did. We came in underspent by $150,000 there?
Approximately 150, 147, 8,
Okay, so we came in the first half under by about $147,800. So we're staying with the same second half budget and that the state had originally proposed, and we will also stay with the same tax rate. So we're proposing the second half budget of total expenditures of being, what, $2,912,276? And the levy scale would be
The levy is 2,200,077.25.
Just wanted to make sure we were using the same numbers here. The levy will be $2,222,088. Again, it's just the other half of the first 6-month budget. We anticipate $387,500 in rescue recovery money. So we'll have a total budget forecast revenue of $2,609,587.78. So I'll ask again, any questions or concerns on this? Yes, Tammy.
I would just like to clarify the date.
That's Tammy Duxbury,
2 Orchid Trail.
2 Orchid Trail in Coventry.
Can you turn up the volume a bit?
I'll talk into it a little better.
Got any more
I
volume?
don't know if you can see it. If you see something turn up, the controls are down there.
Microphone, please.
Tammy, here, you want to come over to the mic, please?
My question is really just to clarify the dates. The date for the second 6-month period says 9/1/15 to 2/29/16, but at the top of that page where we're looking at the expenditures, it says 9/1/2015 to 8/31/2016. So for what is the second period budget for? Do these numbers only represent through 2/29?
I'm sorry, that is a printing error. So the first period was 9/1/15 to 2/29/16, that's a 6-month period. The second period that we are voting on tonight is the remaining 6-month period, which would be 3/1/16 to 8/31/16.
Okay, so the second period, thank you very much. Does it sound okay back there? Okay, so we need to change the date
Right.
on that column.
Yeah, go on.
The very last column I'm looking at for period 2, it says 6 months. And it should be, what's the date again? 3/1/16 to 8/31/16. Okay, so that answers that question for me, thank you. I also wanted to find out, one of the things I was interested in is whether or not we have in this budget, if you could just show me where it is, where the expense for the management company, any new hires, any new capital expenditures, basically the large expenditures, any large expenditure that you're planning for the next 6 months. And also if you could tell us what the cash balances are as of today.
I think it's in,
It says February 29th on the cash balance date. So
actually, it's
if those are the 29th of February, then I'm asking for May 5th.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can tell you.
I just need a total. I don't need to know each bank account. If you can just give me today.
It's $1,050,838,038.
838. So that's $1,050,838.50. 38 cents.
That's one date.
29.
That's February date.
That's the February 29th date that's
What's
listed.
today's date?
Oh, I'm sorry, here's today's date, 9/63/698.72. I'm sorry.
968.
9/63.
963,
698,
698.
and 72.
All right, 963, 698, and 72 cents.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Okay, the only other question I had was any large expenditures. If you could just highlight those in the budget so we know that they're, you know, large, extraordinary type things.
As far as any of the large expenditures, we don't have any planned right at the moment. We bought the rescue, the first new rescue we purchased with a thing we worked out with Centerville Bank, and the other one we bought $50,000 and we paid cash for it. But other than that, there's no major expenditures planned at this time. Am I correct? No, it's a major expenditure for equipment. I'm talking about equipment or any of that stuff. I'm answering
No,
that
I
question.
actually was referring to not only the equipment, because I know we've already purchased that, but
You're saying
expenditures.
capital improvements. I'm
Not
talking
only
about that. Then I'll
capital.
talk about people separate. I just wanted to address, I
Okay.
wanted to address your capital improvements, and
Okay.
we don't have any planned at this time.
Okay.
As far as personnel, we hired a management company, and we also have Jessica Finneran, our clerk, and our acting tax collector. As you probably know, our clerk left a couple months ago, and our tax collector has also left. So those people are gone. So we really aren't paying, we're actually paying less in payroll now than we were before for support staff. As far as the management company, Gail, would you like to address that?
Yeah, so this budget,
The microphone.
Yeah, I like it.
yeah, so this budget is based on a chart of accounts that was based on the state. So as we're going through we're going to start immediately with 2017, you'll see a budget that actually, in terms of the chart of accounts, in terms of where things are, because these you can see there's a lot of line items. Some of them don't really make that much sense. That's because the way things have been accounted in the past is a little bit awkward. So you'll be seeing the next budget cycle where costs are in the right buckets. So there you're seeing you have at least about 147,000 surplus. The management company came in after this time, and already we have identified a lot of savings in terms of we bid, for instance, medical, and we're looking at least a $75,000 savings at that point for the next fiscal year. We've done things like we have RFP'd and come up with a different rescue billing company that has also will save about between $30,000 and $50,000 just by lower fees. So in terms of this budget, because we were stuck with what we had, it's just the same. So you will see that there will be some items on there that are higher than what was budgeted, and then you'll see other items that are less. And so for this, because it's a very awkward 6-month period, there's not a lot you can do accounting-wise. And we were really looking, knowing that we can live within our budget and at least keep the tax rate stable, what are we doing every day is to look into the next fiscal year, and we're looking to decreasing the tax rate by reducing expenses in a way that is structural, not just a one-time thing, but things that are permanent. So for example, even having two meetings in a year, this meeting costs money. Obviously, we're moving back to one meeting a year. Printing out tax bills twice costs about $6,000. That's a savings, it will be permanent. That's just an example of one. There are others that we're working with every day. So when you see the 2017 budget, it will look a lot different. It probably won't be as very detailed because it's really not necessary. A lot of those accounts we just inherited, and we're going to be changing the structure so that it's more transparent and more understandable, and also so you can actually read it. I know it's very small. It was very difficult to even go through the process of reconciling
what was in our accounts to what we actually spent money on, and it was a big job, and it's overly complicated and cumbersome, and just by simplifying it, you'll see a very big difference when we have our annual meeting for the 2017 budget.
So are you saying that the management company is not in this budget because you're using excess from other line items to provide for your management company fee?
Yeah, essentially, it's going to be, we're going to have to create it doesn't exist right now, but now you're going to have to create for a line item called district management or management. We didn't have it in the budget. It didn't exist 6 months ago. So we are kind of trapped into this, like I said, it's very awkward to have, it's understandable why we did it, because at the time we didn't know where we were going to be. And the good news is, having gone through every single count, the good news is we have a slight surplus. So we are running very tight. Now so the idea is to keep the tax rate the same, but really start pushing for 2017, where we're really looking to reduce the tax rate.
So you expect that surplus to actually offset the management company fee, even though it's not line item?
There are other things, yes, but there are other things that we're doing that are offsetting. So like, for instance, you'll be seeing, when we do the reconciliation for the whole year, you'll see, for instance, that rescue billing will be less, or that benefits will be less, because we've negotiated these things. So you'll see a whole bunch of things that are lower, but you'll see, of course, there is a management fee.
Okay.
But the idea is that the management fee, that the idea that we're working for is that at least 2 times we'll cover expense reductions by going out for bids, by using best practices, by doing all these things, and by skinning down, we will be able to offset the annual fee and give back to the taxpayers. That's the plan.
What is the management company fee for the year?
For the fiscal year?
No, well, do you have to put it on a monthly basis?
So it's $9,750 a month after June 1st for a 1-year contract. The contract ends February 28th. So you have to look at it in terms of, for the fiscal year, it will all be, we'll put it in the budget.
So what you're saying is the management fee should be paid for by the savings that you expect to find in the budget.
Absolutely. And one thing to look at the budget, and one thing that I'm very concerned about also, is the claims. So we went through a bankruptcy, but we didn't complete a bankruptcy. It's kind of a strange situation to be in. So but the claims still exist. This district does have debt, and those claims, we are negotiating to reduce them. So if you look at that claims, I know it's like very, very small, but you can see that claims page, and the idea is we have to address each one of them, but it doesn't mean that we have to pay each one of them at 100%. We are negotiating, the board's negotiating, myself, others are negotiating each one to reduce it as much as possible, so that to be able to give back, you have to put the debt into the budget, and the lower debt we have, the lower taxes we can offer the populace.
Gail, I'd like to just take a second. I'd like to have, some of you weren't at our other meeting. Gail, could you just give a little bit of your history, a little your resume, please?
So I'm actually, I grew up in Cranston and graduated from Cranston East and left Rhode Island immediately. Go Cranston. So Thunderbolts, and I left Rhode Island. I went to school and actually was getting a PhD in political science and a dissertation about nothing, which was Russian agrarian land. And when I went to Russia, people were very helpful in actually answering my questions for my dissertation. But they said, we don't get the state credits anymore. Do you know anything about accounting or business? We'll help you on your dissertation. And at that point, I decided actually, to come back to America and become an accountant. And I went to Boston University, got an MBA in accounting. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and at the time in Boston, they needed people to go to their Moscow office to speak Russian. I happen to speak Russian, and so I volunteered and spent pretty much the next 7 years in Moscow. And in Moscow, I actually was able to travel around the country in management consulting and actually helped Russian businesses answer the question about what do we do now that we don't get money from the state. And when I was also there, when I became finance director of the largest and most technologically advanced beverage can manufacturer in the world at the time, and they reconstructed all their accounts, all their human resource policies, all this kind of thing. And yeah, love story. Married a Russian, the only Russian in Russia who didn't want to leave Russia, but I convinced him to come back to America and came back to Rhode Island. So I've been back for about 12 years, and I specialize in company turnarounds and transitions. Probably my most well-known work is in the city of Central Falls. I ran the city during the receivership, during the bankruptcy, and then actually came up with the 5-year plan of debt adjustment to get them out of bankruptcy, and eventually out of receivership, and handed over a city to the elected officials that was, I don't want to say fixed, but definitely financially stable. And one of the things that was really important there was working with it was a whole city, obviously. You had fire, police, and we had 3 unions, Council 94 as well, plus other departments. And one of the things it was very interesting for me was working with everybody, the taxpayers, with pretty much everybody, to come up with a solution that was maybe not ideal, but acceptable for all. And a lot of things that I did was kind of bringing business practices into municipal, the government. And so a lot of things, well, why are we doing it that way? Well, that's always the way we did it. And to be able to say, well, why don't we do it this way? So a lot of what I did was more just looking at things in a different way, and not because I didn't, I don't want to say know any better, because I hadn't been part of government, so I listened very much, and to understand what each side needed, and also to propose different solutions that in the end, had savings. So for instance, one of the things that we did was we consolidated public safety. So we had, before the fire had dispatch and the police had dispatch, and so I said, well, that doesn't make sense. They were all actually inhabiting the same building. There was only one fire, there was only one station for fire and police. They were the same building. They both had dispatch, and so we consolidated it. And by just doing that, 2 things. Probably one of the biggest thing was morale. People started working together because there wasn't them and us in terms of fire versus police. There was one team. And then, of course, there was a savings, and it was about a $750,000 savings, which might not seem like a lot of money, but that got us probably about 15% of the way there.
May I talk for a moment? Good evening. My name is Bob Conover. I've lived here 33 years in Coventry. I was a paid volunteer on Central Coventry Fire Department probably 20 years ago. I worked there for 8 years. I was very proud to do that, and I was a fireman. And I did what was necessary. And I believe we need to support the fire department. I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing almost a doubling of the cost of our fire department when I look down these numbers. I have a master's from Penn State in public administration. All of a sudden, from 2015 to 2016, we're being asked that everything costs double. And that cannot be true. It doesn't make any sense. I know our fire department has had problems. I know we need to take care of our firemen. And I know we need to give them the proper apparatus so they can take care of us. It all really comes down to is, what are we paying in 2015, and what are we going to be asked to pay in 2016? Look at the numbers. Is it going to be a doubling of the cost of the fire department? That's what the real question is. What will our costs be? And that's what the real answer we want from this board. Looking at these numbers, I'm seeing that they're almost going to double the cost of the fire department for us. And I know Bob Seltzer tried to combine the fire departments before he left because he saw a real savings in doing that. I think we need to ask them, the board, what the final costs are going to be. And of course the costs are not the same because your home is valued at $100,000. Your home may be valued at $250,000. But we really want to know what the increase is going to be. We expect an increase because that is right and just. But we really want to know how much that increase will be, and can you give us a percentage?
Thank you. Excellent comments. Where are we going? I think Gail just kind of pointed out, we're looking at every cost savings we can. We also just, for instance, we are taking the tax office, and we went to 3 days a week from full-time. We also, for people, can pay their taxes at Bank Newport, so they don't have to go to the tax office if they want to pay in person. That's saving money for us. We don't have to pay to manage Bank Newport. If you want to mail in your payment, you can still do that. So that's a savings, taking a full-time tax collector job down to 3 days a week, basically part-time. We eliminated health benefits.
I'm seeing it doubled in this thing. It says tax collector expense, $10,300. The previous year was $5,100.
These are 6-month budgets.
Pardon me?
These are 6-month budgets. This is a 6-month budget, so you're seeing the 5 and the 5 adding the 10 for the year. This is a 6-month budget. We're actually the same as last year, and we took about an 18% tax decrease for this year. We went from 276 to 246, and we did that with the same property valuations because there was no property valuation change. Because you're right, when valuations go up or down, the rate changes and you still come up with the same levy. But in this case, we actually took a real tax decrease, which the state was not going to do for you. At the same time, we bought a new truck, which the state was never going to do for us. And we got another truck, which the state seemed intent on never doing. So we're starting to fix up the building. We're doing minor, not major repairs to your question.
What's the percentage increase?
I don't expect to see any.
What?
I don't expect to see any.
So my bill is going to remain the same?
I expect it to.
Okay.
That's what we're expecting. We're trying to get all these things in line, and that's why this was a 6-month budget, so we could figure out what was going on. Because quite frankly, we didn't have it. We haven't had it. We still are digging out some of the numbers that, don't forget, this was like 3 years. We went through different receivers, different accountants, and none of them did anything for us. Nothing. They just took money. So we've got a pretty good handle on it now. Now we're looking to get the expenses in line, keeping our personnel costs in line, and that's a big thing. At one time they were budgeting for 47 firefighters, and now we're like 32. That's really where your big savings came from. So we also went from 5 stations to 2. There's savings there. The question, of course, do we need to go back to 3, and that's something we're going to have to discuss at some point in time. But as of right now, I don't think anybody on the board expects to see any tax increase come September.
So you don't think my taxes are going to go up regarding the fire?
No, don't expect it. Not unless something happens we don't know about right now.
But yet I'm seeing all these increases.
They aren't. Those are 6-month budgets. So that's why it doubles.
All of your headings to the top.
Yeah, Gail said that at the beginning, she had the wrong dates on the headings.
Well, you don't have some category titles.
The category titles are wrong as well. That's what's going on. When you look at it, it's all, it's,
Gail, let Gail go through that. The headings are wrong. They
the
finished that
headings
up.
at the top are wrong.
You're absolutely right, the headings are wrong, and my apology. There was a different printout, and it didn't, so anyway, it won't happen again. And it won't happen again because we're not having a 6-month budget again. So the first column you see, it says fiscal year 2016 budget. This was the state's budget. Okay, so that's why you have all these line items, and that's a full amount. You'll see that the tax levy, the current year, prior years, the total revenue, you see $4.9 million. The next column, it says period 1. So that's the first 6-month period. Okay. Yeah, first 6-month budget, first 6-month period. And you can, it should say, and it does actually correctly say, probably the only one that correctly says anything, it says 9/1/15 to 2/29/16.
That's the first half-year budget.
It's the first,
That's the first half-year budget that was approved.
okay, you approved that back 6 months ago. And you approved, instead of approving, typically fire districts and municipalities approve a 1-year fiscal budget. But this was a special circumstance. And so just to find out what was going on, just did 6 months. So you took that whole budget, and all you did for 6 months was divide it by 2. So from the first column to the second column, if you divide it by 2, you'll see that every single number is just half of what the first column is. The next column, the third column, that says period 1, 6 month, this is what it really should say is actual. So we have the first column being the total year, the second column being the 6 months, the first 6 months, and the third column being how we actually did. Now, you know, there's many line items here, and some things might be misclassified, but the totals match to the bank balances. That's how we know that everything is correct. So we've tied out the money coming in, and we tied out the money going out. So you can see, actually, when you look at it, so for instance, the revenue line items, on the third column, it says total general fund revenues. We expected and we budgeted 2.9 million, the second column. We actually received 2.6 million. So that is the fourth column, 229,000 less than what we expected. That's the fourth column. That's like the variance column. So we received less than we expected. That's a collections issue. We are doing a tax sale. We've actually improved collections. If you looked at it today, we've collected much of those monies. But at this time, on February 29th, we were 229,000 less than what we expected. But we actually spent less than what we expected. So if you go on the second page, and you go to the bottom, and you say total expenditures, and you look at that 6-month column, we thought we were going to have a balanced budget, so we were going to bring in $2.9 million, and we're going to spend $2.9 million. But you can see that we only spent $2.5 million. So if you do the math, you have a surplus of 147. Okay? So what this is really showing us is that for the 6 months, we can be within budget. Now, that's for 2/20/29. So the idea was, okay, let's not do anything crazy, let's just keep everything the same, so that you will have the same tax bills. You should. If you might have an abatement, something might have happened, but typically you will have the same exact tax bill because you're going to have the same valuation on your house, hasn't changed, and you're going to have the same tax rate, the 1.23. So you're going to have the same tax bill. And again, so what we're saying here is that, okay, we have a little surplus, and one of the things I want to highlight too is to look at the debt payments. We are looking at debt. This includes debt. It includes like capital expenditure. It includes the things that we've done, but going forward, we're really looking into now, how do we, as Fred has mentioned, we've kind of looked and tried, did the assessments, made sure that we're collecting, or that we have the properties in the districts that should be in the district. So now the question is, what do we do with the expenditures, and how do we get them lower and sustainably lower, not just a one-time thing where it's going to be lower this time, but in 5 years from now, your tax rate's going to double or triple because we made a mistake. I've seen how that works, and it's not good. So it's all about sustainability, and so that's why in 2017, I hope you all come back for the annual meeting for fiscal year 17, because what I expect is to show very good news and actual tax reductions. Does that explain those columns better? Why it's 6 months and...
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, they say one of the keys to management success is to surround yourself with people better than you, and I feel I'm doing that. Thank you very much, Gail. Moving forward, as Gail said, we are attacking the debt. We're negotiating with the water department, all the electric department, the pension board. So we're addressing all the issues. There was a plan, it kind of got dumped, but once we got here, we had to put a plan together. And what you did first, of course, the first was stop the bleeding, which is what we did. Things may have seemed a little disorganized as we were running around trying to, as I said at a recent meeting, people think a lot of balls in the air. And I looked at it more as it was a lot of swords falling, and we caught some, we dodged a few, and a few hit us. But we're still here. And when I say we, I mean all of us taxpayers, all of us citizens, all the firefighters. Keith, thank you. These guys kept going right through it all. And so we're still here, and we're going to be here. No matter how much the state wanted to see us fail, and they did, we didn't, and we aren't going to. So with that said, any other questions? Yes, Dorothy. Dorothy Berube.
Yes. Okay, this budget, what's going to happen if Kent County gets their rate increase?
Well, Kent County's actually looking, what they're looking to do is to shift the fire hydrants over to the ratepayers and take it off the fire district altogether. That's what's in the rate plan. So you'll be paying on your water bill if they get their rate plan.
If they get it.
Right.
Is there any thought to the district advocating, asked to have standing in order to speak to this?
Yes, I've actually talked with them, and Gail and myself and Dave, we've actually met with the water board, and we will continue to look at them and look at what's in the best interest of all the taxpayers. And we'll also address it with the PUC after we make a decision. We are going to go to the PUC
This is only
meeting.
half of the filing.
Pardon?
This is only half the filing in Kent County Water
Right,
to get this rate increase.
right.
And they've already had their testimony. And I wore today about the standard.
Yeah, they're looking, if the fire hydrants stay with the fire districts, they're looking at a substantial increase. Did he tell us how much? You remember?
Yeah, I don't have it right now,
Yeah.
but I can definitely get it.
When we were meeting with him, though, he mentioned that it was going to be a substantial, we're already paying like $500 a year for every, $500 a year for every fire hydrant, and they were looking to possibly half again, or even double that amount. They're looking anywhere for revenue. So we spend $200,000 a year on hydrants now, so if they got their doubling, if it doesn't go to the ratepayers, then it will go back to the fire district, and you probably see a doubling.
Mr. President, it's 80% increase.
80% increase, is that what it was? Okay.
It's not my job, though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it was going to be a substantial. Yeah. That was pretty close, rounding out 100%, so we're at 80, we're good. But it would be a lot of money. I think their preference is to have it put on ratepayers because they really are tired of dealing with fire districts. After Anthony's hasn't paid them and we didn't pay them, they really would rather find some people who they can have a more steady stream of revenue from, I guess. But that's their preference, is to just put it on your water bill. Okay, yes. Where? Oh.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Would you like to come down and use the mic, please?
Now I got a pretty big mouth. Look, the one thing I want to ask you is this. The fire department has obviously turned around and made a lot of concessions. They've lost a lot of manpower. They've closed a lot of stations. Now, I'm fortunate enough to pay taxes in both Situate and in Coventry. It's a lovely thing. What I want to ask you is this. For the chief, your manpower at 32, like 28 right now, give or take an injury here and there. I know personally that a department's not going to be able to run that way to safely and effectively turn around and protect the community which it serves. The second thing I got to ask you is this. Has anybody here talked about the ISO rating? Now, we're nickel and diming the fire department now, and I'm not an advocate of the fire department. I want to let you know that. But the couple of $100 you save, you're going to be paying in homeowners insurance. Because the minute they find out that everything's changed, you can guarantee up to a $250 to a $300 markup on your homeowners. It's called an ISO. Don't take my word for it. Look at it. So you're beating the death of guys here that are going to turn around if you have a stroke, if you have a heart attack, something odd that you have no idea about happens. Okay? And in the meanwhile, you're still going to get taxed the money on your homeowner's insurance. That's how it is.
Okay, you all set?
Right? So, I mean, I want people to understand that. Has anybody here done an actuary on what the homeowner's insurance
Okay,
will go up to?
well, I will address that. For one thing, the ISO rating, we did fall behind when it was in bankruptcy. I know there was no training going on. We did find out last year, and so we addressed it, and we have ongoing training, which the chief is doing, and to get our upgrade. The first thing was we had to get training fixed because the reason our ISO rating dropped was due to the fact that once they saw there was no training going on, they didn't even do any more evaluation. So it didn't even matter whether we had aerial ladders or helicopters that could drop water. It didn't matter. They stopped right at that point, and I talked directly with the ISO people. That's number one. So we are working on getting the training back and working on getting our ISO rating back. Number two, and this is one of my favorite, I love going to fire meetings and listening to people talk about how much your homeowner's insurance is going to go up. For one thing, there are some companies, State Farm? State Farm actually, it's right on their website, they do not use ISO ratings for anything. Other companies, to come at it, when somebody wants to throw a dollar amount at you, there is no single person who knows what an ISO rating will do to your homeowner's insurance. And I have done research on it. This is not just me talking off the top of my head. Wall Street Journal has written many articles on it. They're algorithms. Every insurance company creates an algorithm based on their costs. And in the algorithm, it might be an ISO rating, but it might be weighted at 2% by one company, 3% at another, might be rated at 0 at another. There are various things in there. One of the biggest things that came out of the big fire in Texas, that was when Bastrop, Texas burned down, half the city burned down. There was a lot of studies done, and Allstate Insurance, for one, found that they were insuring too much property within a given zip code. So what they changed was their exposure within a given zip code. And that's how they improved their profitability. Had nothing to do with ISO ratings. Had everything to do with an algorithm. I could go in the weeds here and bore everybody to death, put you all to sleep, and my wife will start waving at me and tell me to shut up. But let's just stop that. Sir, I don't mean, but that ISO rating in your homeowner's insurance. In fact, I'll give you one more tidbit. And this was a recent study done. It was in the Wall Street Journal, and it mentioned about the part of the homeowner's insurance where it goes up is due to, pardon? I haven't finished, but just part of the insurance, why it goes up, and this is good for all of us to know, is they have found that in their algorithm, the ability to find people who are inclined to shop their insurance, they give better deals to than people who they find, say, married to the same person, live in the same house, keep the same job. Those people are less inclined to shop your homeowner's insurance. They're very stable people. They like routine and they stay with it. They will generally pay more homeowner's insurance. It's a proven fact. I didn't dream this up. This is how it's done. The days of that, I remember moving into my home 35 years ago and I shopped insurance and they asked, how far are you from a fire hydrant? You don't see that on any of your policies anymore. And if it was based strictly on how many fire trucks you have around, people in Western Coventry or Situate, they'd be paying 50% of their home value. So I'm sorry, sir, but that's a Spears tactic and I cannot just sit back and ignore it. So if you'd like to make another comment, go ahead, but that ISO rating is a 0.
Sir, the first insurance I had was through Liberty Mutual. I bought my home on a VA mortgage. And we turned around and we had it, and they asked me point blank if I had a paid deposit. Then halfway through this issue, Bank of America still has my mortgage, and they sent me a notice stating the fact that my fire department was in trouble and that my little extra was going to go up a little bit higher because the fire department was in trouble. Now,
I would recommend that you shop your insurance then. Check it. Go online and check it. You put in your zip code, your address, and you're going to get 5 companies, 5 different
I
prices.
have it in writing. So then
5 prices from 5 different companies.
Sir, then I got upset with them. Then I went to USAA as being a regular veteran. I talked to them. Everything went on. Central Coventry's district popped up again. They said, your fire district is in trouble. You're going to have to pay extra. Okay?
How much was the difference? Did you get prices
It was $225 between an average.
between Liberty Mutual and who?
Liberty Mutual and USAA.
They were $267 different. One was more than the other?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go with the cheaper one.
That's
not the point. That's not
Just trying to tell you, sir, they're algorithms, sir. They're algorithms. And there isn't any one person who knows what's in
Hear
it.
the truth, Berlinski. This man is telling the truth, because I have USAA. And when this started, I saw
Steve, sit down, Steve.
$25 was the figure I got. And I've had USAA.
Steve, you're out of order, please. Please sit
I'm
down.
out of order. You're out of order.
Fred, I can help you out.
Okay, with that said, I apologize, folks, but believe me, for homeowners insurance, if you really want to get the best price, shop it.
I can help you out.
ISO didn't mean anything. We wouldn't discuss it. Your insurance. It wouldn't be.
Steve, you discuss anything you can scare people into paying more fire tax for.
Classification.
There you go.
All right? Get an education in this business.
Will you just leave? If you don't have anything nice to say, just leave.
I will leave. You
Thank
know
you.
why? Because you're being fed a bill of goods. All you people.
No, I'm here to tell you that I have a Mika, and I have had a Mika. Just
These
leave.
people are being lied to. I'm going to be. I got something to gain out of this. Get out of here. Tell me you're going to speak.
He does not. All he does is inflame the situation. I have a Mika, I have had a Mika, and I have called them continuously through this issue, and my insurance has not gone up. It has stayed the same. All right? So shop around. I have one quick question, Fred. My question is about the debt, because you mentioned it, and I just want to clarify, because I must be reading something wrong. On the handout that some of us got when we showed up at the April meeting, the unpaid debt said 4.1 million. And on this handout, it says 4.5, almost 4.6. Can you tell me what the difference
Yes,
is?
I can, and yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. That was actually a very good question. We actually just caught it tonight, and I showed Gail just before the meeting started. If you look up at the Centerville bank line, we paid roughly $500,000 up there, and she didn't take it off. And the reason was Gail ran all the financials, and the $500,000 didn't show because Centerville Bank took it. So it didn't show that we ever paid it. It was money that, when we reconcile the bank statements, it shows the money, but it doesn't show that we ever actually made a payment. So that's the $500,000 right there, Tammy.
What's the balance that's Centerville now?
543 and some change plus some interest, because it accrues interest every day. Yeah, so it's half of what it was. It was $1.1 million when we came in, and it's about 543 right now. We actually started this month. We're paying $10,000 a month to Centerville Bank for the rest of our life, but we're paying $10,000 a month which is $120,000 a year, starting this month, May. We actually have the first check this week.
You've actually paid $1,117,000 off from the debt.
Correct.
617 plus the 500 that you paid already to Centerville Bank.
The 500 from Centerville Bank, then we also paid off Coventry Credit Union, which was around 89,000. We settled for 45. We settled with Element Financial, which was radios. We owed them 80-something thousand. We settled for 43,000. Actually, there's a list on there. What was it? Oh, the town of Coventry. We paid them 300,000 right off the bat. So that debt's gone. Your debt has gone way down, and I'm actually looking forward to the September meeting. You're going to be very, very pleased. As Gail explained, some of the numbers as we're going through, we inherited an accounting system that really wasn't complete from the state, and we had to put everything together. But come September, it'll be our budget, and our numbers, and our chart of accounts, and you're going to see a very good improvement in the debt. So I really look forward to that, sharing that with you.
Can we vote on the budget now, please?
Yes. Okay. With that said, present the budget for approval. Okay, to ratify it. Okay, we'll present the budget for approval. You go right out this door here and vote. Come back, and we'll approve it and move on from there. Right through this door down here.
Yes, I'll go, and then I'll